Hiya! This is Nutty Rap Chick, and I am doing a video response to Boston Fan V1. Is that how he does it? Yeah, I think so. He did a video on how wrestling was better back in the day, and I have a few points that I want to bring up. First of all, I'm not sure necessarily that that's true. Your perception of it was different. I think definitely as fans we've evolved. But I don't think that necessarily means that the product is less good. I definitely think we get better technical wrestling now than we did in the 80s. We get more high spots, more because obviously in the early 80s it was actually banned for me to come off the top rope, so it wasn't until Jimmy Superfly Snuka and his era that it was actually brought into wrestling to allow top rope maneuvers. And there's a lot of stuff that you get to see, certainly in ROH, that you would never see in the more mainstream products, purely because of how dangerous it is. I love some of the ROH for that reason, because you do get to see the more stunning maneuvers. You get to see some of the more refreshing stuff. You're talking about back in the day and saying we didn't have the internet and we didn't have dirt sheets. Well, there were always magazines. There were magazines going like quite far back about wrestling, and that had backstage stuff in it. I think generally though our perceptions were different, because certainly for me, I mean, I'm 34. So when I started watching wrestling was late 80s, early 90s. And my perception of that era is very different to my perception now, because I did have that innocence and I did have that wide-eyed naivety that we don't have now as fans. I think, to be honest, it's not as much that the product is less good as it is the fans are more critical. Because very much so now, it's way cooler to be a critic than it is to be a fan. If you're a fan, you're called a mark, and it's just they're just a mark, they don't know anything. But being a true fan, being a fan that doesn't read all the dirt sheets, being a fan that's more connected to the products and more into the product, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I actually miss the days when I didn't know that anything but WWE existed, because I was such a fan and I was so dedicated to the product, even though I missed a lot, because I missed a lot of the Monday Night Wars because of the fact that I was a pure WWE fan and I wasn't going to watch WCW because that was betraying the product that I loved. And yeah, I missed out on a lot because of that. But at the same time, I stayed true to the product I loved. And Now you get the attitude of, if you don't watch at least 3 different products, then you're not a true wrestling fan. And I don't think that's true. I think we have a much greater access to a wider platform of wrestling than we had when we were younger. Certainly in the UK, with the internet, we have significantly more access to wrestling. And with TNA being on a free channel over here, we actually have access to TNA as well as WWE on a regular basis. But I think that's a lot of what you would say is the dirt sheet effect. I don't think it's necessarily the effect of the dirt sheets. I think it's more the effect of fans being older. Because even though you said your 5-year-old kid knows that it's that's scripted, my dad told me it was scripted when I was 6 or 7, but I still loved it, and I ignored what he said, and I absorbed into the product, and I loved it. And that's what kids do. Kids can accept the fact that it's not real and go, you know what, it doesn't matter. And I think we lose that as adult fans. We lose a lot of the pardon me. We lose a lot of the pure fandom that we have as kids, as adults. So I think the question isn't whether the product is better. It's a question of whether our fandom's changed. And I think that's the bigger effect. I don't think it's necessarily the product that's less good, but it's the fandom that's changed. Sorry about that. Phone call in the middle of the video. Yeah, so my big question to you, Boston fan, and to the guys out there is the product worse, or has our fandom changed? That would be my question. So there's a penny for my thoughts, and I shall speak to you guys later. Mwah!